Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Talk It Out with Pascal. We are your hosts, Louienel Genabe.
And Allech Magisa, and today we are going to talk about maintaining balance between school and personal life.
In this podcast, we are going to tackle the importance of maintaining a balance in our school and personal lives, along with our own personal experiences regarding the topic.
Let us actually first talk about why it is actually important to maintain a balance in school and our personal lives, since this may be the first thing that you ask. In recent times, actually, we may find that actually maintaining a steady balance in our personal and school life to be an extremely burdensome or extremely difficult task to accomplish. I personally believe that this could just be because of the increase of new forms of entertainment or new distractions. They come in the forms of new games, new videos to watch in YouTube or other social media platforms. There's also social media in and of itself, such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. There's also new K-dramas, new anime, and many more. It is actually becoming increasingly difficult for us to focus on our learning tasks in school and just in school in general. However, I am actually not saying that we should just avoid all these forms of entertainment, since they can actually allow us to interact and to bond with our own friends and to also develop our own social skills, which is extremely important for our future lives. As my mother have always said, as that it is actually important for us to actually have friends and to have a variety of them, as when we are in need, they may come to us and they can help us, since it is actually quite sad for us to actually have no friends, and it is also more likely for us to actually form and to develop several mental illnesses, since we are all just left to our own thoughts. Though it is also actually important for us to have a steady balance between the both, as it can allow us to grow into intelligent and social individuals. However, there may come a time in our lives where we just become too focused on one that we actually begin to ignore, or at least stop focusing on the other. This, of course, can negatively impact or affect the other part. I have actually personally experienced this, as during the pandemic, it became increasingly difficult for me to maintain my own personal hobbies and interests with my own requirements in school. I actually spent a lot of time playing games like Genshin Impact or other Pokemon games, which really hindered me from studying. Though, when I was in elementary school, it was actually the complete opposite, since I kind of became too focused on school and studying, that it is why I wasn't really able to develop my own social skills, which is why it's difficult for me to actually make friends and to start conversations with others. I am actually still trying to fix this at this very moment. However, now that I'm done with my story about my experiences on the topic, what about you, Louis? Have you also experienced this?
Yes, I have experienced this kind of thing too, because personally, I have life goals in my journey as a student. And of course, it is to complete school, graduate with high achievements, and find a suitable job in order to achieve success in life. Like everyone else, I am currently studying in order to have a good and happy life in the future. Of course, we will not be able to reach it without going through various obstacles that will make it difficult for us to achieve them. Especially last year, when we're still having online distance learning, And one of the factors that affects me is that I regularly play online games like Mobile Legends and Pokemon Unite, as well as spending time on social media sites like Facebook and YouTube. Not only that, but I also get to keep track of my favorite anime series, which sometimes causes me to complete learning tasks late because the time that should have been allocated to my studies has been spent by playing and watching rather than studying. But now that face-to-face classes is back, I don't have time to play my favorite online games anymore, and even the time I spend opening my social media accounts has been reduced. And in the past 2 months, I've been focused and have the mindset to keep up with my studies without pressure. But again, I'm not tolerating others to do this kind of stuff. People tend to learn with their mistakes. So that's why I made different adjustments for me to balance my study and my personal time. Time management is one of my ways to equilibrate my study and personal life. I plan and divide my time according to what I need to do. For example, I give both 6 hours for my study and playing games. Then I usually sleep 8 hours a day, more or less. Then the rest of my time in a day is allocated for any activities I want to do. For example, playing badminton, playing board games with my friends, hang out with them, do voice calls, and etc. For me, managing my own time helps me to reduce stress and prevents me from procrastinating. It also supports me to get more work done in less time, and it creates space for me to give a lot of time to discover other things. Alec, do you also have done few adjustments to be able to balance your study and personal life?
Yes, of course. I have actually done several adjustments in order to ensure that my studies and my own personal life are balanced. It actually took me quite a bit of time for me to actually create a schedule that allows me to finish all of my tasks on time. I decided that on weekdays that the very moment I go home, I would have an early dinner first and then I would sleep afterwards so that I would be able to have 8 hours of sleep. This is actually kind of beneficial for me as it means that I would always be having 8 hours of sleep and I would never be sleep deprived. By the time I wake up, I still have a few hours before I get ready to go to school, which is why I usually spend at least like 1 hour to play games, and the rest of the time I just use all my homework and do extra studying. I agree that it is important for us to balance our studies and our personal lives as it can help reduce our own stress as we no longer have to procrastinate and to worry about whether or not we will be able to finish this task. It is actually extremely stressful when we actually have a large amount of activities to finish in such a short amount of time, since all of them have usually piled up if we choose to procrastinate and refuse to answer them immediately, which is why they usually pile up and we end up having at least a few days worth of activities that we need to finish in a short amount of time, such as just 1 day or maybe 2 days if we're lucky.
Actually, I agree with these adjustments because we all know that we study in school to learn new things, right? But if you study and study and study, sometimes we felt burnout or exhausted because of too much focus, and maybe we are having, what would you call this, information overload, especially if the lesson we are learning is, let's say, it takes time to understand. And in the past few days, I felt dizzy in the middle of my studies due to the combination of overthinking, information overload, and the changing of weather from sunny day to rainy, vice versa, something like that. I thought that at least I would get rid of my problems first and try to relax and clear my mind. These things can affect our mental health and physical health. That's why I also recommend students to sometimes chill and relax. But remember, not too much.
It is actually important for us to set a given amount of time for us to spend it on for our own personal lives, as it is actually a way for us to relax and to rewind. It can actually allow us to spend some quality time with our own friends and family and strengthen our bonds with them. Now, especially with our parents, since if we actually look at through their perspective, they'd barely even be able to see us, since at the very morning we'd only be there for at least a few hours, and then we immediately go to school and we spend several hours at there, and then the very moment we go back home, we'd usually just eat and then finish all our assignments and homeworks, or at least do other stuff, and then we also eat again, and then we're going to go back to sleep. And then the process continues. From day to day, it will all just be the same until the weekends, where we finally be able to talk with them. Though games and videos are not actually the only parts for our own personal life, because it would just be sad if our entire lives just revolve around games and school and then nothing else. This of course also includes our own hobbies and interests. My own hobbies, for example, are to read books and to draw, since it also allows me to calm down, and also to broaden my own imagination. It is important. Finding time to do what we want can allow us to discover several of our own hidden interests, yes, that we may never have ever be able to know exist if we never tried out new things. An example of which is that you actually didn't know that you were actually interested in this topic, but then the very moment you tried it, you had so much fun that you just thought to yourself, I want to keep doing this. I want to try new things, which is what this ends up into. Though it is also important for us to actually remember this, since what I'm about to say is of extreme importance. It is that we shouldn't really spend the majority of our time just doing nothing but playing games and watching shows or doing whatever we want, like cooking or doing that, since it is also important for us to actually be productive, since it's actually crucial for our own futures and to ensure that we will be able to have a successful and happy future. Though an extremely common problem that I believe that almost all of us face is that no matter how much we try to balance our own studies with our own personal interests, is that we just can't seem to maintain it. Yet we also think to ourselves, why is this so difficult? Why does it sound so easy to do it on paper, yet it is so hard to actually do it in the first place?
Is it only me that it is hard to balance? Like, people spend so much time just focusing on one of these two. But balancing it can give us time that can benefit us personally and academically. By doing this episode, I remember the song The Nights by Avicii, and in the song, it is stated that one day you'll leave this world behind, so live a life you will remember. And it tells us that we should live life to the fullest. And through balancing our school and personal life, we can have memorable and unforgettable experiences and takeaways. We must not forget to study smart and hard by meeting work requirements, but at the same time, we, we need to give time to ourselves to have fun and relax because, we all deserve it.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. We hope that we could have at least inspired or at the very least taught some of you listeners about how to maintain a balance between our school and personal lives.
Again, we are your hosts, Louienel Genabe and Allech mag-isa. That's all for today. Thank you for listening to this episode of Talk It Out with Pascal and goodbye!